Hey everyone, welcome to episode 107 of Tuesdays with Perry. We're going to get Perry on the line in just a minute. Tonight, we're going to be talking about the Wisconsin Governor, Tony Evers, signing into law some very disturbing, I guess they're trans verbiage. And they're going to talk about Ukraine's mineral deal with the U.S. And then Trump's record, 1,000 questions answered, plus a lot more coming up right now. Let's see if we can't get Perry on the line.
What's going on, Rudy?
Hey, Perry, welcome to episode 107 of Tuesdays with Perry. Sorry we couldn't do it on Tuesday. It is Wednesday, so it's a Wednesday's edition of Tuesdays with Perry. So let's start out right here with, you brought this story to, well, you didn't bring this story to my attention. I had heard of it, but this Wisconsin governor, I guess, has signed a bill into law that has some strange verbiage. I guess it's transgender verbiage, things about inseminated person instead of mother and father parent. Who is this guy, Tony Evers?
He is the head of a group of sick, twisted freaks. That's all I can say to that. Rudy, for the past 3 months, we've been saying the Democrats better wake up from this nightmare they found themselves in November 5th, and they just keep beating themselves up. I don't understand how they could possibly think the direction they continue to take their party is a winning strategy. I really don't. I mean, I don't care which party you are. After a presidential election, if you take the drubbing that the Democrats took November 5th, and trust me, we've had it happen to us too, okay? You have to become introspective as a party and look at what the voters said through their actions and say, how do we get out in front of this? How do we become part of this decision on the part of the electorate to change the direction the country is currently headed? And they refuse to do that. They continue to want to be supporting and leading the fight on the 20% of people who have the view that they currently have. And so, look, you and I and others have been saying repeatedly since December 1, hey, look, Democrats, if you don't want to change your direction, great, you're going to make 2026 a lot easier for us and cheaper.
Yeah.
Keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah, so I guess,
and and that's what this nonsense in Wisconsin is part of. When I read the story, I don't want to say just for the sake of creativity, I got violently sick reading it, but I was dumbfounded. How do you continue? And they're not the only state. The maniacs are having this problem. The Californians, the New Yorkers, many other states. By many other, I mean a large minority of states, maybe as many as a dozen. Okay, of blue states. They are doing this. They're saying to Americans, we're going to thumb our nose at you. You're stupid. You can't see the fact that you're stupid, but because we're better, smarter people than you, we'll forgive you when you vote us back into power. And that's the type of action they're all doing. And Wisconsin's a perfect example of this. How in the world do you write legislation knowing even in Wisconsin, the people don't agree with it, and say, we're not going to call parents of a newborn child a mother or a father because gender is now fluid. It is whatever those individuals or the child, once it's conscious of its own thought process, decides as a human being whatever gender they want to be. And that's the hill they want to die on. So good for them.
Yeah,
let them die on it. Because go ahead.
Yeah, no, I'm afraid there that the folks that are the extremist part of the progressive wing of the Liberal Party or the Democratic Party are going full steam ahead with their agenda, like you even mentioned, that without any regard to the electorate, which for the most part rejects the promotion of transgenderism or the catering to transgender ideology, which is what this is compelled speech. So I want to move on to the next article we're going to talk about today, the next story, which is Ukraine signs mineral deal with USA. And I was surprised the paperwork came through from Ukraine today. There is no security guarantee in this deal. This is just opening up rare mineral rights to the United States, to developers in the United States. What do you make of this?
Well, you got to read between the lines. And again, score another huge, or as he likes to say, huge victory for the Trump Meister. Why do I say that? He has basically given Ukraine security, state security, against any potential future Russian move. Now, this is after peace is made, not an armistice. I'm sorry, not a cessation of hostilities, but an actual peace treaty. Once that's done, he has just secured the security of the, for all intents and purposes, state of Ukraine. Why do I say that? If American companies are allowed to come in and exploit the vast wealth of rich and rare earth minerals from Ukrainian soil, we're going to have a lot of Americans there because we have the know-how the Ukrainians don't. If the Ukrainians did, they wouldn't need us to do it. It's not because they don't have the working capital. It's because they don't have the technology that we have. That's the reason why American companies are going to be doing all this mining. Well, if we have thousands of Americans, civilians, in Ukraine, that provides a certain level of security in the future for Ukraine. Add to that, Russia is going to be given the guarantees that they need for their own security from whatever peace deal Putin and Trump work out along with Zelensky. And then we don't have to worry about sending hundreds of billions of dollars to fight in a needless war ever again in Ukraine when it comes to the Russian army.
Right.
All these things are going to be long term. And you know the other thing it does? It shuts out the Europeans from this deal. Completely.
Right.
This is a huge, huge score for Trump.
Right.
So, go ahead.
Yeah. Did you see the press conference the other day? Was it today? I think, no, it was, that's right. It was It was today.
I missed it.
Yeah, so his cabinet meeting, his first cabinet meeting, he invited the press for the first hour. He held a press conference in the cabinet briefing, and Elon Musk was there, and he allowed questions and what have you. And he made it perfectly clear with Pete Hegseth sitting right there that that NATO was off the table, that Ukraine will
Correct.
not vote, will not be joining NATO, and there's been no discussion about territorial lines or any return of the Crimea or any of that. So it
Right.
looks like the plan is now that things are going to stay as they are, and we're just going to stop the fighting. What's your take on all that?
That's almost spot on to my thinking. I think, I don't know it will happen. I think Trump, in order to give some saving face to the Ukrainians, is going to negotiate with Putin for Putin to draw, because they've made a lot of advances. And keep in mind, they are advancing every day, whether it's a kilometer or 10 kilometers. They
Right.
are advancing every day. The Ukrainians do not have the ability to stop them. As a matter of fact, I think the Russians are moving as slowly as they are because they know they don't have to rush things.
Yeah.
So I honestly believe it's going to, if I were to use an example of history, you go back to the closing days of World War II, Patton's Third Army. Patton was spanked by Eisenhower because he wanted to beat the Russians to Berlin.
Right.
And Bradley and Ike both told Patton to sit down. And Patton did something that was done again in 1991 by Schwarzkopf. He didn't take the call. He
Right.
kept marching. But he was denied the opportunity to take all of Berlin because the deal made by, I have to assume it was Truman and Stalin, was it's going to be a divided city so that the Germans can never do this to us again.
Well,
You'll
yeah.
get the eastern side, we'll get the western side.
Well, apparently they wanted the Russians to take Berlin because of the cost in lives, and Stalin didn't
That's right.
care. Stalin didn't care and go, well, we're gonna, the West was like, we're gonna get half of the city, but you do most of the fighting. So,
And so that's if you use that time in history, I think that's what's going to happen here, where I believe, again, to give the Ukrainians some saving face, a lot of the territory, and we're not talking about a great deal of geography here, but a lot of the territory that the Russians have conquered in the last 3 months will probably be ceded back to the Ukrainians, because the Russians never wanted this war. Okay? They just want their security. And now they've gotten two things. Although it hasn't been discussed publicly, Trump has acknowledged and in principle has already agreed to, that's why they're going to have their summit, has already agreed that Crimea is going to remain in your hands. Now, the question is how much of the Donbas is going to stay in the hands of the Russians. My thinking is pretty much all of it.
yeah.
But maybe not much more other than that. So it'll be interesting to see how things play out, in the coming weeks. So I think that's the reason why everything is shaping up the way it is.
All right. Yeah, I think I don't think they're gonna cede much of the Donbass back to Ukraine. I imagine they want to keep land access to Crimea. I think that's the strategic goal.
Mm-hmm.
So let's move on to more Trump news. Now we got a bunch of different things here. Of course, record breaking. Trump took over 1,000 questions in his first month as president. Illegal border crossings are down by 94%. It is February, so it's very nice in the desert right now, by the way. And Apple just announced a $500 billion investment in manufacturing here in the United States. Um, that's on
In
top.
addition, right? You were going to say I'm going to beat you to it, though. I'm taking your thunder tonight. In addition to the $1 trillion that has been promised, we don't know if it, thank you, Elon, for pointing out SoftBank doesn't have $500 billion in hard currency to back all this growth for AI. But going on principle, on what we know so far, so on top of the 500 billion from them, another 500 billion is coming from other sources, and then of course we have 600 billion already promised by the Saudis.
By the Saudis, yep. I was going to say that. Plus, we got $65 billion already saved by Doge. So a lot going on here. Let's start with Trump's. Let's say he's doing it a little more different than Joe Biden did it. He's in front of the camera 5-6 times a day. What do you make of this? And then we'll go to some of the victories in just a month, particularly in investment and money, because that's going to make the economy go. The velocity of money moving around is going to start things rolling.
It's neck breaking. It really is. I can't even wrap my mind totally around the fact that we've already exceeded the promise of more than $1 trillion worth of investment in our country. With starting now, it's already starting to happen. You got to think about that. You got to think about that, and what that's going to mean in the coming months, along with what has been accomplished by both the House and Senate with regard to the budget. It is mind-blowing what we're about to experience. The golden era is definitely here, and we got to keep it running. So, I'm speechless. I really am, because I'm so excited for the short-term future. And if everything comes to fruition over the next 18 months, as has been promised, the long-term future, meaning looking out beyond the next presidential election, is so bright for our country and for the world. So I'm very excited.
Let's reel it in here to so he's got to get the economy going, which he promised to do, and all these things are going to help. Just a quick opinion on what do you think the central bank is going to do? What do you think the Federal Reserve? What do you think Jerome Powell is going to do? You think Trump is going to get help with the economy before? You think that he's going to get a rate cut before we start turning 3 or 4 GDP?
There is no way in God's green earth Jerome Powell is going to lift a fingernail, let alone a hand, to help Trump rocket this economy. He's going to sit on his hands, and he's going to wait and see. Now, I don't think that's necessarily a terrible thing. I don't like it. I would like to get things, for obvious reasons. But I'm not trying to make him sound like a hero. But, whether it's our central bank or whether it's one of the European central banks, they have to be careful when it comes to playing with interest rates, because you don't want to ignite the flames of additional inflation. And we are still suffering from Biden inflation pressures. All this money that Biden gave away in the last 45 days of his administration is now entering our economy. And that's what's putting pressure on the Fed to say, we're not going to lower interest rates. We can't. So, no, I don't expect Powell to lift a finger, like I said a second ago, a fingernail to help Trump out of this minefield that Biden laid so perfectly for him. But that's okay. It's okay.
Yeah, he'll do it his way. He'll get the economy going, and then the Fed will have to act because they don't want to overheat it either. So we got a lot of money coming in. Doge has saved the taxpayers $65 billion already. That is outstanding. They're on track to save $1 trillion. And now I'm going to throw a wild card in here, a wild gold card. I don't know if you heard this. This was also announced during this press conference. Trump is saying that he is going to try a new immigration tack, which is instead of green cards, he is going to offer gold cards to rich individuals who are willing to pay $5 million each so they could be a legal immigrant in the country and they could come and be here with, of course, a pathway to citizenship. It's just going to cost you $5 million. And Lutnick said that they are on track with the amount of people that are willing to take advantage of this, all vetted. All the people will be vetted, of course. They're on track to making $1 trillion.
I'm glad I'm sitting down because I probably would have fallen down when I heard that. I did not know this was brought up during the press conference this afternoon. When you said $5 million a person, to fast track you and move you to the head of the line. For you to say, maybe $10 billion, I would have been shocked to hear that. I don't know how in the world it's possible to raise that much revenue from people who are that desperate to be fast-tracked, become American citizens, and are willing to spend that kind of money.
Yeah, Lutnick said already in the first tranche, there are 250 participants. He said there could be 1 million. So at $5 million each, you can do the math with that.
Mm-hmm.
But, they're talking about maybe adding 20 million people who are willing to pay $5 million each. So that's going to be a lot of money there. So that's a new idea. And like most Trump ideas, what he talks about is broad ideas. Maybe it'll be whittled down. Maybe it'll be changed. But he's certainly thinking outside of the box. So we got that going on.
Well, let's stay on that for just 1 second, Rudy. The people that can afford to spend $5 million to be fast-tracked to American citizenship are almost certainly, not all of them, some of them are going to be trust fund babies, but the vast majority of them are people who are some of the most productive human beings in the world. And they want...
You got it.
And they want opportunity, and that's what this country has always been about. And so imagine, again, thinking, you just said it, he thinks in big, broad, beautiful ideas. Think of what that means, not in our lifetime, but in my son's lifetime, when those kinds of people come here and start or expand existing businesses.
Right.
And make them American companies. Think about that for a second.
Yep.
The implications are incredible.
Exactly. And that's, it goes back to the whole immigration that people don't understand, legal immigration per se, that people have to be responsible, not a drag on the system. You have to have a sponsor and all these different things. Well, someone who's coming here with $5 million to pay the government, he's not going to need a sponsor. And like you even mentioned that he's going to start a business. He's going to expand his business. He's going to get access to the market.
He's also not going to bring measles to our country either.
Yeah, right. Exactly. I was talking about that today, which was, in southern West Texas, there's a measles outbreak. Well, just to let people know, most of the immigrants that have been let into this country over the past 4 years haven't been vaccinated for measles, mumps, or rubella. So,
as a matter of fact, when you were talking about that on the show today, I couldn't take time to chat with you, on the chat with your other listeners today. But I wanted to say, isn't it interesting? The press makes this announcement about more than 100 new cases of measles, a breakout of measles in our country, and there is no information as to how that happened,
right,
or what people, meaning citizen or non-citizen, is infected. And we both know, as do all your listeners, we all know what individuals are not only infected, but what individuals are becoming infected with this, and they're all illegal aliens.
right.
That who, by the way, are being hospitalized in America, and who our tax dollars are paying for the welfare of.
Oh,
thank you,
absolutely.
Joe Biden.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So imagine what happens when our security forces, that I like to call, starting with Kristi Noem, and then coming down to the czar, my hero, Tom Homan, and everyone below them, when they now can turn because as you mentioned at the beginning of our show tonight, crossings have dropped by 94% in 30 days. So now the border, we can honestly say the border is now locked down. It is secure. And now the Border Patrol and other federal agencies who are being employed by Kristi Noem are now going after all the invaders, specifically the violent lawbreakers. And what does that mean for the welfare rolls? What does that mean for our big city hospitals? What does that mean for our school systems in 6 months? Think about that for a second.
Yeah.
We're going to, and now all that money that has to be allocated for housing, for medical care, for food, for the education of children that are not American citizens, those demands are going to be eviscerated. Not right away. Nothing happens overnight. But imagine what that's going to mean when it comes to budgetary issues. That's why the Democrats are going apoplectic, because they've lost all control. And I mean governmental control over us. And all of this is, Mr. President, I can't take all the winning.
Yeah. Hey, there's already an immediate effect of what you're talking about there. So there are reports now that illegal immigrants are pulling their children out of school out of fear that they might be given up
right.
by the school children. Yep.
And they've been given an added reason to do that because Kristi Noem announced either today or yesterday. She announced, I think it was yesterday, you have one of two choices to make.
Register?
You can either, these are my words, not hers. You can either self-deport, or you can wait for us to catch you. But if you come to us now and you tell us, look, I'm here illegally, but I really do want to eventually be an American citizen, we're going to ID you. We're going to help you get home, and then you can turn around and you can file the paperwork so that you can eventually come here to this country legally and ultimately join the rest of us American citizens.
Right.
That's what immigration's supposed to be.
Right, exactly. Well, legal immigration in any case. So I wanted to move back to Doge. So Elon Musk, in his surprising attire, was at the at Trump's meeting today, and with all the department heads, and he, Elon Musk defended Doge again. The people given the email for their 5 bullet points were given a second chance. What do you think? Is it going to be quite like O'Leary wanted or suggested? What happened is that he's going to cut deep and hard and keep cutting as much as you can, because as O'Leary happened to mention, that it's like mercury. These things will keep coming together, coming together. So if you don't cut out the deep state now all the way, it's going to keep growing back. And then after that, I want to talk a little bit about your Florida cadre, which seems to be overrepresented in the new in the new administration.
Well, success breeds more success, my friend. As far as Elon goes, look, he's been given new marching orders. You're not going fast enough, damn it. Those words are a paraphrase of what Trump told him. More. I want it done faster. And for good reason. The Democrats and all of their jackbooted thugs in the federal bureaucracy unions, they're all, lining up. They're filing their lawsuits. They're going to continue to try and slow Trump down, but they still don't get it. Even if they submit all of this to a Clinton, or Obama, or Biden judge, even these judges, not all of them, but even these judges see the tea leaves, and they see the American people are steadfastly behind these actions. They do not want to risk the possibility of being impeached, nor do they want an ill-written order from their bench being overturned by federal appeals, or, God forbid, it should have to go to SCOTUS, being smacked down by the Supreme Court of the United States. So as long as Trump, vis-a-vis Doge, continues to do what is within the authority of the office of the president, there is ultimately nothing the Democrats can do. So let them go ahead and play these little games and throw their little temper tantrums in front of the cameras. Go right ahead. No one cares what you say anymore. We are seeing, that's the beauty of Doge. The American people are seeing how you're spending money on transgenderism for children in Central America, how you were using Sesame Street for political reasons in Iraq. I think it was Iraq. How you're spending millions of dollars for transgenderism support in Ireland. This is what my hard-earned tax dollars are going for? And you have people like Jasmine Crockett going on TV as recently as, I think, 2 nights ago, saying, we, meaning Congress, we're not in the business of giving money to people. That's kind of funny coming out of your mouth, bitch, because that's all you've been doing is giving money to people who don't have a right to it. So keep doing what you're doing, Democrats. You're making this beautiful cruise that I'm on, political cruise, that much more pleasurable. I love it. I love it.
Well, the thing is, the name is coming back to haunt them, because they are liberal spenders. They're liberal with the taxpayer dollar. And so that's what we're finding out. The slush fund, now you have people on mainstream news channels actually saying, what I've said all along, that U.S. aid was a slush fund for the CIA. I think Pam Bondi even said that. Pam Bondi also said that there will be, the Epstein files will be, or some of them, some evidence will be released tomorrow. She didn't specify what. But she is part of the the Florida cadre you have down there. You have, and this was pointed out by Marco Rubio. You have Marco Rubio. You have Trump. You have Trump, of course, at Mar-a-Lago. But you also have Pam Bondi, Mike Waltz, and apparently Witkoff. Right, is also from. Steve Witkoff is.
I didn't know that. I thought he was still a New Yorker.
No, well, yeah, once a New Yorker, always a Floridian.
Hey, you can't blame a smart Jew boy for knowing where to put his money.
Yeah. So, Marco Rubio was talking about that cadre there. So you must be pretty proud of Florida at this point.
And my potential future governor, Byron Donald.
Yes. Announced today. He announced today. Byron Donalds announced today he will be running for governor. And I guess Ron DeSantis's wife, she won't make. Is she going to make the primary?
Look, she's been a great first lady. Most people outside the state of Florida really don't. I mean, put aside her battle and winning the battle against breast cancer. A lot of what she has done, she's been a great first lady for the state of Florida. And what little I know about her political instincts, there's a reason why her husband thinks she would make a great governor. Well, if he ever wants to have sex again, he better say that. I mean,
that's wasn't taken very seriously in the media or in any seasoned political circles. So Byron Donalds, okay, he's only been a congressman for how many? Just one or two terms.
He's in his third term. He's in his third term.
Third term, right? All right, that's great.
But he's been a state rep. And if I'm not mistaken, he was also a state senator, and then he ran for Congress. So he certainly knows how to work within the rules of the game of politics.
Okay. And he's got Trump.
And by the way, he's a native New Yorker, too.
Oh, is he?
He's from Brooklyn. Oh. Yes, he is.
Oh, that's going to make a
difference.
He
came down to Florida at age 17 on a football scholarship.
Oh, nice. So he will... He'll know how to talk to the New Yorkers. Like I said, once a New Yorker, always a Floridian.
Always a Floridian.
Yeah. So
I'm going to steal that line.
It's here. It's open source, man. Yeah, you could quote me anytime. So we started off with Tony Evers here. I just want to go back to him just for a second. So you said this many times that tonight that the Democrats don't have a chance. We had James Carville saying, just roll over and play dead for now. But there's evidence that that's not the case.
Right.
That the resistance is awakening, supposedly. But I don't, no one is.
Christmas is coming too.
Yeah. Everybody seems to be, at least the majority of the electorate seem to be inoculated against any attack on Trump. And so they moved on to Elon because the Teflon Don is back, and there's no way. So they're going to try to attack his policies, but unfortunately, his policies are very popular. They tried to push out an Ipsos poll with the Washington Post that was slightly skewed, you could say, because the other polls, show Donald Trump above 50, 52, 53, some say 54%. The Ipsos poll was the only one that said 46. So if you looked at the makeup of the poll, you could see there's a mysterious 7% of unaffiliated people that were involved in the poll. You could put those in the Democrat. You could put the margin of error, on the Democrat side as well, to reflect the fact that if you add all those numbers up from the Ipsos poll, well, it comes to basically the aggregate of other polls, which is 53%. So very popular so far. everybody, especially people without money, love the fact that he's clawing back money from the government because most people think that the government is awash in money. And
Hmm.
so,
Hmm.
what you hear.
And keep in mind, you know, you and I talked about this last week. You and I are in agreement. Neither one of us are happy about the thought of taking 20% of the Doge dividend and writing $5,000 checks to all the working, hardworking taxpayers of the United States. And I understand why both Elon and Trump think it's a great idea. But I will tell you, politically, you can't lose. You can't lose with it. It's not what I want. It's not what you want. But when you start handing people who paid those taxes, you give them their own money back. I still haven't forgotten what B.J. Clinton did to the hardworking people, tax-paying people of this country in 1993 when he looked into the camera with crocodile tears and said, "I've worked harder than any time in my life to try and give the American people a tax break, but I'm sorry. Bush cooked the books. I'm going to have to increase your taxes."
Yeah.
Well, if you can, and it was done, look it up. It was done post, meaning he went back to the beginning of the year of 1993. I mean, he wasn't president when the tax policy was issued in September or October of 1992. He went back and had them retroact a tax that the people did not know was coming. Now, if you can do that, why can't Trump give you back your money?
Yeah. I'd like to see it. There is
Good
a problem.
politics.
Yeah, there is a problem though. The House bill, apparently, I was hoping, but it didn't include no tax on tips and no tips for Social Security. So those things are not in the House bill, which I thought they would be. The
I'm
tax,
not worried.
yeah, the tax cut that was set to expire is continued. Um, and the Senate bill was apparently only border and military. So I hope they reconcile, but I would like to see some givebacks to the everyday electorate.
I'm going to go out on a limb. My predictions towards the end of the election cycle weren't as hot as they were before the election cycle or at the beginning of the election cycle. But I'm going to make a prediction. I think the House is going to throw the Senate a bone and let the Senate, during reconciliation, put those 2 points back in. And they're going to have to figure out, okay, what are we cutting so that it doesn't affect the budget? It's a wash.
Right.
You watch and see.
Yeah.
The fact that we now, Rudy, think about this for a second. We're still in February, and we're already halfway to reconciling a real budget for the first time in 5 years.
Yeah.
Think about that for a second.
And it might very well be balanced.
Don't, please. I already got busy once tonight. Don't do it to me again.
It probably won't happen this time, but we will probably have a balanced budget by next year.
Well, right. But here's the other thing. Let's just say we might have, I don't know, $250 billion deficit, maybe. What's to say that the economy takes off in the second half of this year? Because that's why this bill is so important. This budget bill has got to be passed in record time to allow private enterprise to gear up, start hiring people, more people in the workforce, more tax revenue at a lower rate, and then all of a sudden, by growth in the economy alone, we get to a balanced budget because of all the raised taxes that come in.
Right. The thing is with growth, when you fund growth, the velocity of money gets greater. It speeds up. If you just give people money, like during COVID, even the scammers, if they scam the government out of $10 million, that money tends to get sat on. If you give breaks to people that are productive, that money gains speed and it gets out into the economy faster. And everybody,
or how about the $200 billion in COVID spending that may have left the country because we have no record of where it went?
Yeah, right, exactly. So we're hoping that all this activity is going to create velocity in the economy because that's what we need. And so everything else, I think, after that will fall into place. All right, we're going to close out at almost time. One more word before we close out for tonight.
Well, we didn't talk about what's going on in the Middle East. We should do that again soon. The last thing I want to say is what I've been saying since before the election. Stay tuned. Every week. I mean, honestly, you got to end this show tonight. You and I could have talked for another hour.
Yeah, there's plenty.
There's that much to talk about.
Absolutely. We haven't even got into the nitty gritty, but tomorrow's going to be a big news day. Maybe a special reporter of the weekend.
Would love that.
All right. Talk to you soon, man.
All right. Take care. Stay warm, and we'll talk again very soon.
Hey, it was 55 here today. I'll take it.
Got you beat by 25 degrees.
Thanks for joining me tonight, Perry. Episode 107 of Tuesdays with Perry. Peace out, my brother.
Right back at you, brother. Look forward to doing it again. Take care.
All right, we'll see you.
Bye-bye.
There goes Perry. Episode 107 of Tuesdays with Perry. We covered a few things today. I'm glad that I didn't realize that he didn't hear about the gold card. Trump's gold card. Instead of a green card, he's going to offer a gold card, $5 million per immigrant. So you could buy your way into the country, but you're going to be vetted, of course. And the hope is that they're going to invest a lot more into the American economy once they get here. Okay, this is Rudy's Revelation. Check out my podcast every day, Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. live on Rumble. And check me out every Tuesday night, Tuesdays with Perry, or sometimes Wednesday night, as we did tonight. Thanks for joining me today. We'll see you next week, or I hope to see you tomorrow. Peace out.